What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court. I am Sean Murphy, and today we got to talk about the Russell Westbrook, D'Angelo Russell 3-team trade. The NBA trade deadline is already crazy, and it's not even deadline day. According to Shams, the Lakers, the Wolves, and the Jazz agreed on a 3-team trade that will send D'Angelo Russell back to the Los Angeles Lakers, where he was originally drafted. By the way, if you want to laugh, Google why he was traded in the first place. And Russell Westbrook is going to the Utah Jazz. Now, Mike Conley's also going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that's the least relevant and interesting part of this discussion. Let's start quickly with the Lakers so we can talk about the part that I find the most intriguing. So the Lakers got better, and they definitely got better with adding guys like Jared Vanderbilt and D'Angelo Russell to their roster, and to get off the Russell Westbrook contract. I think this is a really good thing for the Lakers, especially the fact that D'Angelo Russell himself is an expiring contract as well. So you can maybe see what it's like to have him back in the Los Angeles Lakers system. See if he maybe thrives and does well with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. See if you can maybe make a run with that increased wing depth with Rui Hachimura and now Jared Vanderbilt, a guy who's a really good 3-and-D wing in his own right. This is definitely a better roster for the Lakers to contend. They just need to get to the playoffs first. Anthony Davis has to look way more engaged than whatever the hell that performance was when LeBron broke the all-time scoring record. And also, by the way, him sitting on the bench and not even having any reaction and purposefully not reacting to when LeBron broke the record, insanely petty. That's a whole other thing. Let's talk about Russell Westbrook, because now all reports suggest that he's going to be bought out by the Utah Jazz, so he will not play a game as a member of that franchise. And according to Woj, the Chicago Bulls are reportedly interested in signing Russell Westbrook out of a buy-in situation. Personally, if I were Russell Westbrook, I would be seeing if I could go to a team like the Miami Heat, a team where, Kyle Lowry has not exactly been playing quite well. That's a team where you could potentially get in the starting lineup right away, play alongside guys like Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. I mean, it's not a bad alternative to what you had, especially in LA. I think it's a better deeper roster with you on it than what it was, before you were traded. I mean, obviously it's better to play alongside LeBron and Anthony Davis, but everything else on that roster, man, good Lord. I think this is also, if this is indeed the route that Russell Westbrook goes and he signs with the Chicago Bulls, I don't like that move at all for the Bulls. I don't like the move at all for Russell Westbrook. I understand that it might be a move that allows him, just to play out the rest of the season, see what he can do alongside Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. That would allow him to start right away, especially with the Bulls having a lot of questions and, wondering what's happening with Lonzo Ball. Maybe this is your alternative, and your bridge gap point guard in that meantime. But how is this not just another first-round exit for the Chicago Bulls? I mean, and I don't understand why they're so insistent that no, this DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine thing really can be something. Like, do you really think so? Like if the Bulls had any sense in the world, they would be trying to trade Vucevic, they would be trying to trade DeRozan, they would be shopping Zach LaVine, and they would be trying to get assets to see what they can do and build around guys like Patrick Williams and see what they possibly have in house. Now instead, to be trying to double down and go all in on what you have in house, to add a guy like Russell Westbrook to that occasion, to that equation. I mean, you already have a ball dominant guy in DeMar DeRozan who doesn't necessarily love shooting the three. Like, yeah, he can and he will if you need him to, but that's not necessarily his game. To add another guy like Russell Westbrook who's shooting 29% from beyond the arc this year, I mean, I don't like that move for the Bulls one bit. Right now, they're sitting at 26 and 28 in the 9th seed. I don't see that move moving them outside of that spot or putting them anywhere other than the play-in tournament. Now, I think some other teams that you might have to look out as far as a Russell Westbrook destination, I think the Miami Heat, like I said, would be a natural fit for him and the Heat organization, since they're another franchise that's kind of desperate to figure out what they can do and how they can salvage the current situation that they're in. Because let's be honest, the Miami Heat are not doing anything with the current roster that they have. They're definitely better than the Chicago Bulls right now, and I definitely think it would be a better team with Russ on the Heat than it would be with him in Chicago. But that's definitely a situation I could see him being in. I think another team that you definitely can never rule out, I think the New York Knicks, even though they more than have their starting point guard. They always are looking for stars to have in the Mecca, and I'm sure, if there is a situation where Russ would be coming off the bench, I think the Knicks would probably not be a terrible one for him. I could see him being a decent, six-man backup point guard, and him playing with Julius Randle in the pick and roll could be intriguing. So I think that's another situation. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that's definitely looking to, bolster what they have. And especially now with adding a guy like Mike Conley, I think, he's definitely going to be a stable force and a floor general for them. But I think, similar thing where Russ could be that backup, six man, coming off the bench boost for the Timberwolves. Because let's be honest, the reason why you traded D'Angelo Russell in the first place was so that you could make it known that Anthony Edwards, this is your team and the ball is in his hands, and not having that conflict of interest with D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards. Really, all of this to say, there isn't a great market for Russell Westbrook, because at this stage of his career, he's going to sign a veteran minimum, or at the very most of mid-level exception, and he's going to go on and probably play a couple more seasons of decent statistics on teams that are middling or towards the bottom of the standings. I mean, sure, again, you could go to some of these teams if Russ really wants to commit and try and become that excellent version of that role player that he could be. But at the same time, I just don't know if there's that trajectory for him, especially with what we saw at the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, if there's any death note that you could have in the NBA, it's if you don't work with LeBron James. Because if you can't work with LeBron James, you almost can't work with anybody. I mean, LeBron James is arguably the greatest player of all time, if not one of, and he's known especially for being able to elevate his teammates and put them in positions to succeed. So I understand why LeBron and the Lakers would think, well, this has to work, because if this doesn't work, where else would it work for Russ? I mean, with the talent that he had, with him being a multi-level MVP, I mean, I could have told you from day one that this wasn't going to work, because Russell Westbrook doesn't fit alongside LeBron James. I mean, if you want to build a successful team alongside LeBron James, the blueprint literally exists. Why would you go and try to do anything other than get shooters who can defend multiple positions and don't necessarily need the ball in their hands? Like, why would you get literally something other than that, especially when you had those types of assets in-house? I mean, the fact that the Lakers were able to recoup and get something out of this Russell Westbrook deal and salvage anything out of the fact that they lost the likes of Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and other key pieces to their championship run, I mean, yeah, I think they did well in that regard. They're still in the bottom three in the Western Conference. They're still behind teams in the likes of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who they just lost to the other night when LeBron went and got his scoring record. They still are behind teams like the Portland Trail Blazers. I think you're naturally going to see the Utah Jazz slide now that they made some changes and now that their roster is definitely no longer as deep. By the way, I would imagine Utah is probably going to be a little more aggressive. And I wonder, is this the last move for a team like the Lakers? And could maybe the Bulls, is Russ maybe a backup plan to what they could possibly be trying to do tomorrow? I mean, at the end of it all, I don't think Russ is going to be any team's primary plan. And unless he's going to get a job somewhere where, they just desperately need, a mid-season replacement at a starting point guard position, I don't really see much else for Russ outside of a backup point guard role if he were to accept it. And even then, it wouldn't be a glamorous backup point guard role. I mean, it would probably be a backup point guard role with like the likes of like the Pacers or even a team like, in the rankings similar to the Jazz. So overall, this is another interesting chapter in the Russell Westbrook saga, in the LeBron James saga, in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. But on the flip side, I think the Chicago Bulls, if there's anything transparent with the fact that they're considering bringing in Russell Westbrook, it's just how little direction they truly have. I mean, first of all, obviously didn't help with Lonzo Ball going out and having the injury that he had. I know we touched on that a minute ago, but the fact that he's still not even running or still doesn't even know fully what's happening there, I mean, we're talking about, like, will he ever play basketball again? That's a genuine question, and that's a problem. But I mean, you also, like, you look at this roster, and if you really think about it, like, a lot of these moves are just, oh, well, we'll make this move and we'll figure it out later. Like, even Nikola Vucevic was like a move that they made on a whim at the deadline to try and capitalize on the season that Zach LaVine was having, on the success that the Bulls were seeing at that time. And we've seen how that's been working out for them, and really the fact that they should have held on to that pick and to the assets that they traded. So I don't really, my outlook for Russell Westbrook, and especially for the Bulls, if they were to choose to do this, is not bright. If I'm Russ, I'm trying to call Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra. I'm doing everything I can to somehow end up in Miami and see if I can take Kyle Lowry's job, because that is definitely a place where I could see him starting day one and maybe actually winning some basketball games. And the other thing as well, like with his conditioning, with his work ethic, it sounded like heat culture wouldn't be something that he wouldn't be able to embrace. So I'm curious to see if maybe that's something that could still work out. I would love to know what your thoughts are on what the trade deadline's been like so far. Definitely be sure that you're clicking the subscribe button and hitting the notification bell, because we're definitely going to be doing a whole lot of content and reaction to the trade deadline, including most likely a live stream after the deadline passes at some point tomorrow as well. Definitely be sure you're tuned in here to From Half Court for all that content. But folks, that's going to do it for now. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.